Hello everyone. So, we are on to Gods of Mars. So, at the end of the first one, there was that whole big cliffhanger, so right off the bat, we're just going to say, so everyone can stop worrying, he saves Mars. Everyone's okay because of him. He's a hero! So this one starts off, again, on Earth. The first one was basically told as like a manuscript that was given to someone to, after a long time after he's been dead, to give to the public so that they know this information. And the second one kind of starts off with that as well. The only thing is, though, when he gives it to him, he says that this is going to be the last time, suggesting that all further stories we read are ones that he's already given to his nephew, I think it is. And because he dies, and then he goes to like a crypt, and it can only be opened from the inside, just in case, because every time he seemingly dies, his body's left on Earth, and he wakes up on Mars in a new body. So that whole kind of thing, kind of the same sort of thing. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then this one's actually really cool. Like right off the bat, you go boom, he wakes up and he's on Mars. So like the first one ended where all of a sudden he's unconscious and he wakes up and he's back on Earth. He goes bleh, onto Earth and everyone thinks he's dead, but then boom, he wakes up on Mars. And then where he wakes up is really cool. It's most of the Mars is described as like basically like a desert that's covered in like moss and lichen or lichen, however you say that. But he wakes up in like a forest, and there's like a lake, and it's like all lush green grass and stuff like that. And then we meet these new creatures that we've never seen before. They call them plant men. Basically, they sound horrifying, like big long tentacle arms with like big, I don't know what you would call them, like scythes or like knives or whatever, that they kind of swing back and forth to eat the grass. So instead of like using their mouths as plant eaters, their mouths are these big trunks, and they have like these giant big tails. Like, you know, they swipe people, they jump over top of them and hit them with the tail, and that's how they die. And then, or they, you know, they're using their claw, knife hands and stuff like that. And apparently they kill people and drink their blood, which is terrifying. So anyways, he wakes up on that, and then sorry, I was looking at my notes. Kind of a long pause. So he wakes up with that, and then he's fighting all them, and he's fighting the white apes of Mars, which are these big hulking monsters as well, and stuff like that. And one of the parts about this book is that there's less world building per se. I don't want to say like there's none. It's just, instead of when the first one he has to wake up and he has to learn where he is, whereas with this one, right off the bat, we know where he is, so you can jump right into the action, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So that's pretty cool, because you get right into him having sword fights with people and, you know, doing his giant leaps into the air and gunfights and killing and stuff like that. So in terms of action, it's right off the bat. One thing I didn't mention in the first one, I don't think, that takes a little bit more precedent with this one, is everyone has ESP on Mars. You can kind of read each other's minds a little bit, and you kind of communicate more through ESP as well as talking. So I never mentioned that, but it does take place quite a bit in this story, so I thought I'd mention that. So yeah, so sorry, again, my notes. Okay, so I'm going to say big spoiler, because I can't really explain this book without a big spoiler. So if you don't want to know the big huge thing, right off the bat I'll say it's a very good story, very action-adventure-y. The first part of it takes place in a small Spart where there's lots of fighting, and the next one kind of goes out and there's big battles and stuff like that. So if all you need to know is that you'll want to read the book. If you like the first one, read this one. If you want to go a little bit more in depth, here's a spoiler. So the whole religion is that you go down, the whole religion for Mars is that you go down this river called the River Isis, or Isis, and then to the Sea of Chorus. Sorry, it's really, you go down the river Isis to the Valley Dor, and there you go to the lost Sea of Chorus, and that's the whole religion. That when you're tired of the warlikeness of Mars, you go down this river to find peace. And so the whole main storyline is that it's actually a lie. Just horrible, horrible lie. I'll get into it later on, exactly what goes on. But so beginning of the story, he sees these plant men, and then he sees the people come down the river, and he figures out where he is, and he realizes that this is all a lie. And his friend Taras Tarkas from the first book, the Green Martian, is there, going down this river, and he's going to meet his end. So he jumps in and saves him, and then it's them two for quite a lot of the book, fighting side by side against all these bad guys. Oh my goodness, I said I know it's bad video etiquette. Okay, so the main bad guys, there's two actually. There's the Therns, which are the people who live in these fortresses surrounding the valley, and they call them the Holy Therns. They are the religious leaders. But there's a darker part to it. The Therns use this religion to have people come down the river so that they can either use them as slaves, use them as workers to make technology and things like that, or to eat them. Yes, eat them. It's kind of a messed up religion. And they also believe that if they die, they go into a plant man, and if they die in the plant man, they go into a white ape, and if they die in a white ape, their soul is gone forever. But it's supposed to be, you live for 1,000 years, and if you die in your human form, or the Thern form, you go into the plant, and if you die in the plant, you go to the white ape. And, until you reach the 1,000 lifespan, and then you get to go to your promised land. So, they're using this religion as a means to get slaves. They believe themselves better than the rest of Mars, so that they feel no problem using them with a false religion. And then, on top of the Therns, so the Red Martians, the main people, go down the river to their promised land, and then that's the whole religion. And then the Therns believe that when they go further down the river, they go to the actual temple of Isis, which is the goddess of Mars, and it's their holy world. Well, it turns out that that's actually where the Black Martians live. And they live underground through all these waterways and tunnels, and they live under the crust of Mars. And Isis herself is living there, controlling and ruling these Black Martians. And they themselves use the Therns exactly as the Therns use the Red Martians. They occasionally kidnap Therns as slaves. They raid them for technology and supplies. The whole Black Martian society is based on everyone's either warrior or a woman. They do nothing else. All their work, all their food, everything is done by slaves that they steal from the Therns. The Therns get them from using this false religion. And Isis herself plants messages to the Therns so that the Therns think that it's from an actual goddess, because they have no idea the Black Martians are there, so that they'll go out into the world and tell all these different religious things to keep people going down the river, so that it all leads up to her having a comfortable life. So it's kind of hilarious, because it's, the Black Martians are using the Therns are using the regular people, and it's all this convoluted plot with no actual goddess at the end of it. Just a cranky old lady who's corrupt and evil, and, like the Therns, eats people. So it's kind of funny that way. I guess not funny, kind of messed up. What I liked about this book was, the later parts of it, there's a little bit more intrigue. There's a point where he kind of needs to get help, because no one's supposed to come back from the valley. After you go down this river to the Promised Land, anyone that comes back is treated as a heretic. There's only been one other person who gets back, who escaped and tried to tell people the truth, but people killed him out of hand, because it's sacrilege to speak against this, and it's sacrilege to come back from it. So there's a little bit of an intrigue, because John Carter goes back and tries to tell the world that, this is not a good place, people. Not a good place at all. Okay, so the other cool thing is that there's the first part of the book is a lot of intense hand-to-hand smaller battles, but at the end there's this big, huge air battle, because if you remember from the first one, the Mars people have a technology that allows them to have huge airships. So there's a point where they are all fighting and there's airships. So the tactics seems to be to go into a circle and you kind of keep on going in a circle, and this is your enemy. You keep going around in a circle, and every time it passes in front of the enemy, they fire. And as you go back around, you reload, and it kind of does things like that. That seems to be the main tactic. So the way it was described was pretty cool. And so it was nice to have a big air battle, because mostly it's John Carter, you know, jumping and using his sword and things like that himself. So it was nice to have a lot bigger scope of an idea and of a battle taking place. Okay, so this one also ends on a cliffhanger. Throughout the book, of course, Dejah Thoris gets kidnapped. This seems to be a running story in this series. She's kind of like Princess Peach in that way. She's always getting kidnapped. Everybody wants her as their wife. She belongs to John Carter, so they try to steal her away so that they can make her own, and John Carter has to go rescue her. But yeah, so definitely Princess Peach from Mario. So the cliffhanger for this one is, you know, everything gets all wrapped up in the end. You know, bad guys lose, John Carter wins, he's the good guy, of course he would win. And then there's this point where Dejah Thoris has been kidnapped, he rescues her, but he has to leave her to go fight, and then she gets kidnapped again after he's already rescued her once, and put into this cell, basically, that slowly revolves, so that only one point a year is it open. So her and a couple of other people get put into it. As it's about to close, someone tries to stab Dejah Thoris, and all we hear is a scream, and then the door shuts, and we have no idea what happens. Just nothing. It just shuts, scream, ah, and then, is she dead? No idea. So yeah, that was this story. It was a lot of the same, you know. John Carter, excellent person, code of honor and morals and ethics, awesome fighter. So yeah, if you liked the first one, you'll love this one, because it is more of the same, a little bit more. It gets expanded on the world, not the whole world itself, but more on these Holy Therns and the Black Martians. You get to learn about them, and they are interesting societies and how he interacts with them in pure John Carter fashion. So yeah, so that is Gods of Mars, the second one. I said again. Oh my god, this isn't a good video, is it? So yeah, I did it again. So, Gods of Mars, John Carter, Edgar Rice Burroughs, fantastic. If you like the first one, you'll like this one. If you haven't read the first one, don't read this one, because then you'll just be kind of confused. I mean, you'll enjoy it, because it is a swashbuckling adventure, but, yeah. So yeah, there's my review for that one, / summary, and hope you guys enjoyed it, and it was exciting, and have a good day, everyone.